Welcome, my dear audience and friends, to Cancer Convos with Grace B. This is your host, Grace B, coming to you from New York City, the city that never sleeps and is home to Cancer Convos with Grace B. I'd like to thank you guys ever so much for your support on all my platforms. For the newbies, this show aims to demystify the cancer disease and to bring on experts and opinions in the cancer space to come give their take. So in this episode, I'm very, very happy to bring on a very dear sister and friend, a cancer conqueror, an inspirational speaker, and she's also the co-founder of Bricon Foundation, where she, pays forward her experience with cancer to other, cancer patients and caregivers. So in this episode, which is titled The Elephant in the Room, you know that we're going to be discussing very, very serious matters as it pertains to Nigeria and Africa as a whole. So without much ado, I am going to be welcoming Abigail Simon-Hart to the show. Welcome, Abigail, and I'm so happy to have you on. Thank you for coming. Oh. Let's briefly hear more about you. Do introduce yourself to the audience, please.
Okay, so I'm Abigail Simon-Hart, and as Grace said, I'm the co-founder of the Bricon Foundation. I also run a health advisory company called Bricon Global Consult Limited, where I co-manage with my business partner. I have two sons, and who I love very much, and I think my life, I've always been a bit of a fighter, and I've always been very, very determined right from birth. I was a twin, and unfortunately the other twin died in the womb, and they didn't know that I was a twin. So when the other twin died, they assumed that the baby was dead, so they decided to evacuate the dead fetus, not knowing that I was alive. So they pumped my mom with a whole bunch of drugs, assuming to bring out. So the first child came out, died apparently some time before. And since I was technically dead, the doctors dislocated my arms and legs when they were bringing me out. I was breech birth. So my introduction to life was dislocated shoulders and legs as they brought out me that was supposedly dead. So that was my introduction. So obviously I started off life having to fight for life.
Oh, tell us, how did you actually come to know about your diagnosis?
Okay, I've always been very breast aware. So, and because my mother actually had breast cancer, so what that meant is that I did self-examination. I started doing mammograms from the age of 29.
Okay.
And the reason for this was that I did find a breast lump, and fortunately for me, it was benign. So I had a lumpectomy, and ironically, it was on the right side, which is where eventually I finally got the cancer. But so I was very breast aware. So from the age of 29, I already started doing mammograms, which is quite young, but because of my mother had breast cancer, and at that time we weren't doing BRCA and all that kind of stuff. So I was very breast aware. So I checked my breast quite regularly. Ironically, I've been going for mammograms pretty well every year from the age of 29. Initially every 2 years, and then it was now down to every year. And normally I'll do a mammogram and a breast ultrasound because I had very dense breasts. But I had a mammogram done. They didn't do the ultrasound. This was in Nigeria. And for some reason, when I had this particular mammogram, I just felt something was wrong. The day before, a couple of weeks before, I was sitting in front of the mirror and I was just telling myself, okay, if I got breast cancer, what would I do? And that day I made up my mind that if ever I got breast cancer, I'll take both breasts off. So when I came back from this mammogram, my spirit was bugging me. Some people call it gut feel, some people call it spirit.
Yeah.
I just had this feeling that everything wasn't right. It was niggling me. And I was going on a holiday to the UK and I've got insurance. So I said, okay, I've got insurance. Let me just redo this mammogram. I mean, how much radiation is there in the mammography machine anyway? So I went ahead and to go and redo the mammogram. And funny enough, the day I went to do the mammogram, I knew I had cancer. I just had this sense of foreboding. I have never been scared going to a mammogram. I was so scared. I went into the room. The woman did the mammogram. Then she said, look, she needs to do an enlarged mammogram. Then she said, look, you have insurance. There's something not quite right about this mammogram. I'm not sure. Can we just do a biopsy? I'd rather do too much and be wrong than not do enough and be right. So the next morning, I didn't sleep in the night. I knew I had cancer. For me, it was the alarm bells were ringing. In the morning, I get a phone call. I was planning to go back to Nigeria on the Friday, and it was from the breast surgeon. And he says, "Hi, my name is Dr. Leach. I understand you want to go back to Nigeria." I said, "Yeah, on Friday." He said, "Okay, if that's the case, then I need you to see me. And it's my day off. You can come to my house." And my heart sank.
Yes.
When an English doctor tells you to come to his house on his day off, I got there, lovely doctor. He sat me down. I said, "Look, well, let's cut the chase. You want the good news or you want the bad news?" And I just said, "Just give me the bad news." And he said, "Well, the bad news is that you have cancer. The good news is that we got it early." And after that, I said, "Take them off." I didn't hear anything else. I said, "Take them off." He said, "Oh, but you have options." I said, "Look, I'm not interested in hearing any options. I had a premonition that there was breast cancer. How quickly can we take them off?" This was on the Thursday. He said, "By Tuesday, I can go in for the surgery." I called my insurance. By Tuesday, I was in the hospital. And, when I was in the hospital, they were trying to convince me to save my left breast. And I said, "Nope. My conviction is both must go." Up until I was entering the surgery, they were still telling me we can save the left breast. I was like, "Look, there's no point having just one breast. And if this one tried to kill me, I don't want to do mammograms. I don't want anything to do with breast anymore. I'm done. I've breastfed my sons. I'm not doing it. Take the damn thing off." So they got me to sign off for an elective double mastectomy. So, and it was quite funny because when they did they told me afterwards, when they did the pathology, they said, "Oh, by the way, you'd be interested to know that there was the beginning of DCIS in the left breast. There was already the activity in the left breast, which means ultimately I was going to get cancer in the left breast as well." That's why I tell people, listen to your gut. It is so, so important.
So thank God for your life. And of course, the background that you have had given you that strength and resilience to be able to go through everything that you have been through. So as regards your interventions, you went through surgery, you went through chemo, right?
No. Basically, because we got it so early, the doctors sat me down and said, "Look, the nature of the cancer you have, and because it is so early, the chance of it coming back is 20%. If we give you chemotherapy, we can reduce that risk by 2%. For me, 2% was not worth the side effects of chemotherapy. So I did not do chemotherapy." Okay. They now said that if they put me on tamoxifen, that will reduce the risk by 7%. For me, 7% is worth the side effects and co. So basically, I went for the tamoxifen, that's the hormonal solution. But I did not need radiotherapy because, of course, we got the cancer really early, and because I had the double mastectomy, I had effectively removed the prime source. My sentinel nodes were free, my lymph nodes were free, so there was no reason to do any radiotherapy.
That's awesome. And then one thing I wanted to find out, people have tamoxifen and they have side effects, bad side effects. Yes. Have you had any side effects as regards that?
Tamoxifen for me was a nightmare. Apart from the hot flushes, I mean, apart from the hot flushes, I had endometrial thickening twice. And it went above the 10 millimeters, which is the safe level. So I had to have a DNC twice. They biopsied both times, and it was cancer-free. So obviously, because it wasn't cancerous, they continued the tamoxifen since I wasn't going for any other option. But the biggest issue I had with the tamoxifen was I started having vision issues, flashing lights, some weird signs, and it's always good to discuss everything with your oncologist. So I basically sat my oncologist down and said, "Look, my oncologist, anything you tell her, she will think about it and she'll refer you." She's one of those oncologists where if you have any doubts, she'd rather send you to somebody who tells you it's okay than to experiment. So she had a look at my eye and said, "Look, frankly speaking, I'm not an ophthalmologist or anything, but your right eye looks slightly cloudy compared to your left inside. So I'll refer you to my colleague." She now referred me to see one of her colleagues who had a look at mine and said, "Look, there's clearly damage in this eye, but what you need to see is somebody who specializes in retinas and the vitreous humor. I don't do that." So even for eye, they have extra specialists. So when I saw this guy, the guy said, "Look, you have classic tamoxifen retinopathy, and we need to do some tests to check the level of damage. So you have to stop the tamoxifen immediately, because any kind of damage from tamoxifen is irreversible. We will monitor you. We'll do electrophysiology, which means some tests they do with the eye, putting gold leaf to check the level of damage. And in a year's time, you now have to come back and do another review.
Mm-hmm.
I had the review done yesterday, and thank God the scans are identical to last year, which means that we arrested the degeneration by stopping the tamoxifen. So
Oh,
I always
bless.
tell people who are on tamoxifen, please, if you're on tamoxifen, you must have ophthalmology follow-up. Make sure you see an ophthalmologist.
This is strange. So it means that even you've been taking tamoxifen all these years after an
I
NED?
took no, I took tamoxifen for 4 years and 3 months.
Oral tablets, right?
Or yeah, tablets. So I took them from when I was diagnosed in 2014, and I stopped last year.
But why were you asked to continue with it? I thought that once a treatment was over, it was over. Or was it because it didn't do chemo? Is that it?
Okay, no, yeah, they did not. He did not want to take the risk of just removing the breast and not doing anything.
Okay,
Uh,
okay,
so as far as he was concerned, I had to. The option was chemotherapy or tamoxifen because it
okay.
was ER positive. It was
Mm-hmm.
ER positive, and I was premenopausal, so we could not stop. Because I was still producing estrogen.
Yes,
Since it was ER positive, it was driven
positive.
by estrogen. We had to stop the estrogen, and so I was put on tamoxifen.
Yeah, okay. So this means that you have stopped tamoxifen as it is because of the side
I
effects,
stopped. In
right?
fact, as soon as the eye thing came in, I'd already been on for 4 years and 3 months, and the oncologist said, look, you've already got the benefits. It's not the 7 months or 9 months you're going to do more that's going to make any difference.
Mm-hmm.
Now the risks of damage to your eye and side effects are
It's
far higher than the
minimal.
risk of the
Yeah.
cancer coming back. Yeah.
Mm.
So if you wait with every kind of treatment, you must weigh the risks and
You have
the
to.
benefits.
Pros and cons.
And at that point in
Yes.
time, the benefit was far less than any kind of risk I was going to have. So yeah.
Okay, so where are you now currently in your treatment plan? You're not on any treatment, right?
I'm done with treatment. I had a bit of a scare because I was having pain under my armpit, but I'd also had surgery on that particular side. But I wanted to rule out any chance of opening my lymph nodes. So I had scans and things, and I got the results back, and the lymph nodes are clear. There's no masses, there's no nothing, chest is clear, and everything else. So thank God.
Thank
But I always
God.
tell
That's
people,
beautiful.
I always tell people, make sure that if you have any symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
go and see your doctor and get it checked. I could easily have said, well, I have surgery, so it must be that. But I was not ready to take any chances and then regret it later.
Once we have been there, we don't take chances, my sister. Every little ache and pain.
Every headache, every chest pain, anything that's lingering longer than a couple of days, go and check it out. Yeah, so yeah.
So that's great. I'm happy for you. Congratulations. So no evidence of disease, NED. That's you. Praise God.
No
for
evidence
that.
of disease now. So I'm on year. I've just done so 2014. That's 5.5 years now.
Yeah. And there'll be many more years. Look at your mom, as you say, 33. We're going there by the grace of God.
Exactly. And this was somebody who they said was terminal.
Yeah, right. So, God has the final say.
He does, definitely, yeah.
So during all this, getting that diagnosis and everything, thinking of your kids, of course, that must have been crazy, because I know what happened to me when I got the diagnosis, that I had to tell my daughter and everything. All that must have been extremely traumatizing. How did you feel? Yes, one can be resilient and a feisty and a fighter and everything, but once you're hit with a diagnosis such as that, it is scary. Did you have to seek any emotional therapy during that time?
Ironically, my mother died 6 months before I got my diagnosis. She developed leukemia, which was a side effect to some medication she was on for a blood condition. And she died within 6 weeks of diagnosis. And I was blessed to be with my mother as she transitioned. And so I was with her when she was still struggling with life, when she was still fighting. And I held my mother in her arms. I was there with my sister, and I held my mother in my arms, and I told her that it's okay, we'll be fine. Don't worry, all the boys will be fine. Just if you're tired, it's okay to go. The angels are waiting for you. You can go. And I felt my mother's heart slow down. She heard me, and she had her release. And because I watched my mother die with dignity, pain-free, and she was so peaceful I had a different view on life and death. So for me, watching her beat cancer, watching her die, I realized there's such a thing as quality of life that everybody deserves, dignity in death. And so for me, and so it's like I came to realize that death is not something to be afraid of, you know? And if it's a good death, you know what I'm saying? And we people that are struggling deserve the right to let go when they're tired. You know, many times people want to keep their loved ones alive and they're suffering, and the loved ones are scared of saying they want to go because they'll feel that they're giving up after. And I realized that the best thing I could do for my mom was say, look, Mom, I love you. We love you. If you're tired, it's actually okay. You have fought the fights. We're very proud. You can let go now. You know what I'm saying? So when I got my own cancer diagnosis, I must confess I was angry, because I kind of told God, I said, look, God, out of everybody, it's me. I've just lost my mother. Can't you cut me some? I was very, very, my first thing was angry, because I was like, my boys, I have had a lot of health issues throughout my life. I've had so many surgeries for so many things. I mean, and so I've had a lot of medical issues. I've been clinically dead a couple of times. I've been resuscitated a couple of times. I've had a lot of health issues, and my sons have witnessed this. I thought to myself, God, can't you cut these boys some slack? Are these sons now going to sit down there and we're going to discuss this cancer issue? But what I did, my older son got to know because he was with me. He came with me for the surgery. But my younger son, we didn't tell him because he was doing his exams. And I remember when I told him, by that time we knew the cancer hadn't spread, etc. My son, Daniel, is very tough. He doesn't cry. And when I showed him that I'd taken my breast off and that I'd had cancer, Daniel broke down and sobbed like a baby. And that thing broke my heart, because he doesn't cry easily. And that was when I totally crumbled. I was like, look, I mean, how can my kids go through this? You know, so I was angry with God at the beginning, but then I realized that, look, I'm a mother's daughter. I have a strong faith in God, and I believe that I have a purpose. If I can survive being born technically dead, if I can survive being resuscitated, if I can survive all the surgeries I've gone through, that means I have a purpose. And I decided, okay, fair enough, I'm going to turn this around. I will use my experience to help other people. Just like my mother did, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. And I remember it was very funny, because they sent me a cancer counselor about, I think, you know, they normally send you counselors. I think it was about 2 weeks later. This babe arrives, and she was looking very harassed. She was really looking harassed. So
the shoe should have been on the other foot.
No, she comes in looking very harassed. I made her come in, gave her a cup of tea and some biscuits, listened to all her problems, and sent her on her way.
See who was needing help.
She was going to say, look, my sister, you don't need any counseling. You will make a good counselor. Keep up the good work. And off she, and that's the last I saw of her. I never saw her again after that.
That was too funny, honestly. Looking so harassed. Oh my God, that was a good description. I know, because it's not easy. Do you know how many people she'd had to go around, you know, giving solace?
People as well. Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So, my dear, now to the nitty-gritty of our show. The elephant in the room. We all know what happens, especially, I don't want to take it from my angle, it's your angle. First of all, tell us what the Bricon Foundation is all about before I now key into that.
The reason we set up the Bricon Foundation was, the reason I set up the Bricon Foundation was when I got back from the UK, I decided to have a look and see if I wasn't diagnosed in the UK and had treatment in the UK, what would my journey have been like in Nigeria? So I took a visit to Luth before they had any renovation or anything, and I was depressed.
Luth is Lagos University Teaching Hospital.
And this is before the brand new. Now they have a nice cancer center. It's all very But this was before they'd done any renovation or anything else.
Absolutely.
And I left that place and I was depressed. This was 2014, and I spoke to a few patients, and they said they call the place the last bus stop, because people that go there basically die. And so we decided that we have to do something about it. We need to set up. So even before we set up the Cancer Foundation, we had a client. We went to ask them for money to help to renovate the cancer center in Luth, and that was before the new one. And they provided money to be able to change all the furniture, put in AC, redo the plumbing and everything else. So we did some renovation, and we saw the amount of good that did. And we said, look, we can't be doing it as a CSR of our consulting business. It makes more sense to have a platform and a voice as an NGO. Otherwise, it starts to, like, even if you're accountable to your clients, it's untidy. You cannot have a profit-making business doing non-profit activities. Stuff get a bit confusing. So
of course,
that now informed the decision to set up the foundation. And the main reason we set up the foundation was for patients and their families who have been diagnosed with cancer. The focus is on after diagnosis, because we do screening sometimes. When we get donations for screening, we do screening, but we discovered everybody screens. The issue is you've been told you have cancer.
What do you do afterwards?
I got my free screening, then you tell me I should go and treat myself. What am I supposed to do? You know, so we decided that we would focus on people who have already received the diagnosis, who cannot afford to continue their care, or who have no money at all to start the care in the first place. And then we also do quite a bit of training. We're very, very blessed and fortunate to partner with Macmillan Cancer Support UK. They gave us alumni nurses to develop a program to train in end-of-life palliation and grievance and bereavement counseling. And so we run training courses for doctors, nurses, and NGO workers in end-of-life, breaking bad news, palliation, and stuff like that. So we trained about 300 doctors, nurses, and NGO workers. It's fantastic. It has really been a blessing to have the support from Macmillan Cancer Support UK. They've been absolutely amazing to us. We also, what else do we do? So we pay for treatments, diagnostic tests when we have the funds, and we help patients also raise funds. Unfortunately, you find that cancer is really, really expensive, and people don't like donating to cancer because how long is a piece of string? A doctor can tell you your cancer treatment will cost 3 million naira, but because of complications, because of metastasis, it can end up being 20 million. So raising money for cancer is a really, really tough thing. Thank God we have got some corporate donors and some individuals. We do also the fundraising activities, but that's one of our main focuses, is trying to help raise funds for cancer patient treatment, because we find that a lot of people just cannot afford to pay for the cancer treatments. I mean, if not for the insurance I had, it would have been,
which insurance do we have in Nigeria? Except you're working for a big bank, or if you're working for a big institution. We're talking about the people on the lower end of the rung, you know?
Exactly. And the National Health Insurance Scheme only has 5% uptake. So
exactly.
95% is
what happens to 95% of it? You know, so
exactly. So that's a challenge. That's a huge challenge, is that it is an extremely expensive disease.
Yes, it is.
Yes,
it is.
Not even just the cost. Where are the oncologists? Where are the treatment centers? Yes, they say that they're doing treatment centers, but where are the personnel to man the equipment? Because the equipment itself does not treat cancer. You need the specialists who are able. Where's the training for the personnel? There's an exodus now, or as you know, of doctors that
they're leaving. They're leaving. You know, they're leaving.
So where are these
There's
specialists?
no training.
So
there's no. Even the budget for health has dwindled in how many years? Health and education. It's gone. I mean, I was looking at the previous budgets, and with all the brouhaha and everything, there's nothing left to it, nothing whatsoever at all. And even if you have that budget, where are you actually targeting the funds? Are you targeting in training, like you said? Cancer is affecting everybody, you know. So these are things that we hear about first ladies that come all the time. They're doing cancer you know, initiatives and everything. One leaves, the other one comes and does. Why don't you take off from where the last one left? So, I mean, these are things that actually make it very sad when it comes to sustainability as regards health and all that. You know,
what we always tell our colleagues who do free screening, we say, please put money aside for treatment, because it's extremely unfair to open Pandora's box. And then you tell me afterwards, I'd rather, you know, the issue is that you're better off leaving somebody to think is an arrow and they die of believing that, than you tell me I have cancer and then I'll now go and die in the village.
Yes.
Miserable, afraid, abandoned because of the stigma. So for me, don't start what you cannot finish. I'm 100% for early detection, absolutely. But we need to set aside funds. I understand that they have this critical fund now. I think it's 700 million that they're supposed to use towards cancer treatments and whatever. I really hope that they can disperse that funds to NGOs that are going to be able to do some good with it, because there is no money for that kind of stuff. There's
no money.
What's the point of being diagnosed early and then you die? What was the
Exactly.
essence of getting diagnosis if you're going to die anyway?
And another thing I was saying that we talk about is, okay, even if I have the funds to go halfway, you have some members of family, or you have some mindsets, you know, like like we were saying, archaic mindsets that say, oh, okay, it's some punishment from above and everything, you know. So you find out that a lot of people actually believe that it is a punishment from above. So maybe I'm paying for something that I maybe I did in another life or whatever. How can we try and, you know, already the word cancer already brings about depression. So people are
Exactly.
at a loss. They're like, okay, I'm going to die. So there's no need even thinking about that. Like you rightly said, I mean, family sending you off to the village to go die and all that on
Yeah,
your
exactly.
own, on your own.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then this religious aspect, yes, we are all believers in, you know, in of faith and all that, but one thing I wanted to find out from you, you know, in your foundation, have you ever come across certain maybe patients or caregivers who have said, listen, you know, one sect or the other, and they say we shouldn't take medicine, we shouldn't do anything. Have you come across such people like that, that refuse
My sister,
to go for screening or
all,
whatever?
all the time, all the time. I'll give you the different sets of groups. You have the set of people who come saying they're going down the holistic route. Okay, you're talking stage 2, stage 3, which you can still do
Mm-hmm.
something. They'll say, ah, God forbid, chemo kills people. Oh. They told
Mm-hmm.
me that if I drink lemon in hot water, I grate this one. If I put turmeric and black pepper, chia seeds, black mustard seed, black seed oil, blah, 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 bicarbonate of soda. I mean, we had a particular lady, and it was so tragic. We have been supporting her and helping her. And she now decided to go and borrow money to go down. They went into debt to go holistic.
Wow.
So we managed to raise some funds. The person who was doing holistic collected 1.7 million from them a week later after starting her holistic stuff. It went to the brain. In spite of all her holistic, she was dead. She was dead within a week of the 1.7 million borrowing to go and buy all the things that, in fact, they are told the family that, don't worry, that within we have people who are stage 4 metastasis that have been cured by this thing. Just buy this, just buy that. No credit facilities. They went and borrowed the money. I was so angry because we see a lot of that. That's not to say don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that holistic approach does not help, because some of
No.
the holistic stuff complements can help to relieve the side
Of
effects of
course, of course.
conventional treatment. So holistic diet change, fantastic, but
Mm-hmm.
it is complementary. If somebody is stage 4 and is far advanced, I can understand forgetting the conventional, but then the conventional tends to do more harm than good. That's different, but not where it's being proposed as a miracle cure and abandon everything because this is going to.
Makes no
Because
sense.
cancer people are desperate to get anything. You have people who will do holistic, they'll do chemotherapy, they'll do holy oil, they'll go to the mountain and fast. Let me take you to the second step. So you go to holistics where it's only holistic, don't talk to me. I'm going to be doing only my holistic, okay? 100% holistic, and the cancer advances and they die. I don't know one person, and I'm not saying there are not people who, I'm yet to hear of one person who went fully holistic that survived. In most cases, the disease progresses and they pass. I don't know. I'm not saying they don't exist. I don't know any. The next set of people is that it's not my portion. I reject it in Jesus' name. God forbid, cancer is not in my family, therefore it cannot be. That is very popular. I see it virtually I would say 1 in 2 patients like that. It's as
Yes.
high as that. And what I always I've even had pastors come to tell me that their wife is because of the wife's sins, and therefore the wife has to go and fast and go. And I told the pastor, I said, my brother, let me tell you something. What gives you the right to pronounce judgment on anybody? The Bible says all have sinned. And last time I checked, Jesus paid the price already. So you don't have to pay for holy oil, holy water, or anything else. Your wife that is extremely sick, she's emaciated, she's not going to lie on a mat on the floor somewhere, starve herself. How does that make any sense? I said, my brother, when you're asking God for help, don't tell him how to do his job. God created doctors and nurses for a purpose. Luke, for God's sake, who was his disciple, was a doctor. I tell people, so what I do quite often when I'm dealing with people who are quite religious, I look at all the scriptures when it concerns healing. And I use that quite a lot. Say, look, we're trusting God for healing. I was healed by God. I believe I was, because the kind of cancer I had, I didn't have lumps and bumps and symptoms or anything. Okay, we got the cancer early. I had invasive mucinous carcinoma. I had cancer cells floating in mucus. I didn't have big lumps and anything. I didn't have any lumps. But we got it stage 1. You don't normally get it so early. I believe that God spared my life. I survived the surgery. I'm cancer free now. God has healed me. He just decided to use conventional medicine to do so. I'm not saying that people don't get their healing in church. They do. There are miracles. But unfortunately, a lot more people get their healing through conventional channels.
You know, the religious side of it is what I honestly can't understand. I am very, very deep in my faith as well. I believe God healed me too. Hopefully, touch wood, I would make the 5-year first, which I know that He will. But at the same time, these extreme beliefs that are like, okay, you know, the church or whatever is what gets me all the time. You see an opportunity, you would rather go spend money in the church. I'm sorry if anybody's listening to this, but it's not to say that we don't believe in God. We believe in God. But at the same time, heaven helps those who help themselves. You can go to church, you can pray and everything, but also if you have the funds for conventional treatment, you should be able to do that and not go, you know, spend money on you know, funny things that at the end of the day, you know, that's the end of you know, that person's life. It's really very sad what I see, what I have seen, what I read, and everything. Yeah, faith has helped a lot of us to, you know, pick up from where we left after cancer. You know, now, you know, we have to move. We can't dwell in our misery and all that. That doesn't mean that once in a while we don't have something lurking at the back of our minds that is it going to come back, is it not going to come back, but we kind of shoo it away. But religion has been misused so often that it has made people lose their lives unnecessarily, you know, and that's the sad part of it. And
let me say something. What I always tell people who come to tell me that they received their healing, I say, go back to the hospital, let them redo all your scans, get the evidence. Even in the times of Jesus Christ, the disciples checked the scriptures to see if it was so. Mine is, if you can get your healing, go back to the hospital, then you have evidence of your healing. I have many women who tell me, that their pastors told them not to go for surgery, that if they go for surgery, they'll die. And what they told their pastors whole house was, look, let me tell you something. I'm not coming for you to dissuade me. I made up my mind. Just pray for me. I just came for prayers. I tell people, faith is absolutely crucial. There's evidence that remote intercessory prayers, people who are being prayed for recover faster. There's scientific evidence. I've researched it. They've discovered that people who are even terminal live better qualities of life if you are spiritual and religious than those who do not.
Oh, yes.
There's evidence that prayers work. You know what I'm saying? So we know for a fact that when they separate people into groups of those being prayed for, those who are not, the ones who are being prayed for get better faster, do better faster. So definitely prayer is key. Faith is essential.
Very key. Very key.
It's essential to survival, I think. Be it unto you according to your faith. You are what you believe. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
I tell people, if you believe cancer will kill you, you will die. There's no amount of prayers or medicine that will help you. Your mind is
they say your tongue, you've already professed. You understand? Yeah. There's power in the tongue. If I say I am cured, I am cured. You understand? If I say I'm going to be well, I am going to be well. I don't have to honestly wait for a pastor to tell me that I'm going to be well. I myself, I have decreed because I am made in God's image, right? And I can actually pray for myself and make my affirmations. And affirmations will work, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Affirmations work. I swear by affirmations.
What I tell people is that, look, even the Bible says, I set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Choose life that you and your descendants believe. So it's a choice. It's a choice. My mother was very, very, very determined that cancer, that she will decide when and how she's going to go. In fact, there was a joke in our house that the reason why my mother didn't die with the cancer is because none of them could decide who was going to take her first. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So, but when she finally got the leukemia and it was her time, she was dead in 6 weeks and there was nothing medically that could be done. When God opens the door, nobody can shut it. But when that door shuts, man, nobody can open it. We all have our time and our season, a time to be born and a time to die. And the reality on ground is that you cannot, when it's your time, it's your time. Just make sure that you live your best life. Live every day as if it's, that's one thing cancer taught me. I live every day as if it's my last night, last day.
Exactly.
I appreciate every single thing. You know, you get rid of all the useless friends, all the hangers on. It clears all the trash out of your.
Yes. But, you know, like I tell people when I go for talks and I'm asked to speak, I'm saying, listen, I'm lighter, because those who actually believed in me and have remained, those are the ones that I know have been true all this while. You understand?
Exactly.
So it's kind of cleared away the cobwebs, and I can see clearly. And I now see, this actually, you know, and then you don't get mad that those people have shown you the other side. You say, thank God that, you know, this disease came to clear my path and make me see better. So, and it's not a bad, yes, it's a bad thing because we've been through a lot, but it's not a bad thing at the end of the day, because all those mundane things we used to dwell on, they're no more. You know, every minute counts now, and we're the better for it.
No, definitely. Back on the issue of religion, what's really, really important, and that's something that's very missing in the Nigerian structure. They'll do cancer policies, all sorts of fancy cancer plans, but there's no pastor, no imam, no traditional person on those committees.
Even traditional doctors, even the traditional doctors are not on the committees, because there are a lot of people that actually believe in the traditional doctors too.
And whether we like it or not, there must be a cure in traditional stuff.
Yes.
We keep giving our Afro-Caribbean Black people medicine that is for white bodies. We know that the cancer in Black people does not function the same way. It is a lot more aggressive. It is younger. So we need to find our own solutions. We have to stop. There must be herbs out there that work. If there's herbs that work for high blood pressure, if there's herbs that work for other things, why can't we find herbs that work for cancer? They need to get NAFDAC and start researching. We need research, for God's sake. No research in our country.
No, so but you know, I always say until it hits home before it hits home. In other words, if it doesn't happen to you, you will not take it seriously. You understand?
Exactly.
Senegal, look at Senegal. I have friends from Senegal saying, listen, the government has already put together, you know, things that would help the women in the rural areas get treated for cancer. What is it that they're doing right? We don't have to reinvent. We don't have to reinvent the wheel now. The wheel has already been invented. Exactly. Small countries.
Nigerians are going to Ghana for cancer treatment.
Thank you.
Why now?
And we are supposed to be the mother of the continent. What is it? Yes. That's why I say, you know, our priorities are not right, are not straight. Those who could have actually come up with proper policy. You know, the younger generation are having cancer. I interviewed a 23-year-old that was diagnosed with testicular cancer. 23.
Wow.
23 years old. Prostate is happening to guys. I mean, before they say 40 plus, 50 plus, it's now happening to, you know, met guys that were going to Canada for a conference. Those guys were less than 30. They were, you know, they were diagnosed with prostate cancer. So what are we talking about here?
I mean, the government is now talking, at least making the right noises in terms of they're looking at having some more building more federal cancer centers, re-equipping and stuff like that. We hope that it comes to pass because we're very good at, you know.
And that is why we use this platform that we have to make sure that this message goes out. Because even the people around these big people, the policy makers and the, you know, people that matter, the people around them do not even nudge them, you know, to say, listen, don't forget, you made this promise, how are we going to go about it and whatever. That's what happens. You know, no matter what, everybody has a friend, an auntie, an uncle, a sister, a brother that has been hit by cancer. This should be collective. This should be collective. We shouldn't wait until we're nudged. You know, if I was in a position of power, oh, definitely, this is one of the first things I will tackle. You understand?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's I
And
do.
tackle also better remuneration for doctors and nurses, because at
Yes,
the end of the day, if you do not have the personnel who feel valued, who can get a break. I mean, if you can imagine, I think they say we have, is it 70 oncologists? How many do you even have? Then what about the oncology nurses? Because the technicians, the guys who are involved in nuclear medicine, we are in trouble.
Abby, we do not have data. Do you have data? Do you
Even
have
if you
data?
even I don't have data now, and if you look at
Okay,
the
now
data,
when I
it's not
say
done by
data,
Nigerians. The
is it
data is
not?
by foreigners. It's not even Nigerian research, it's foreign research.
Thank you very much. There should be platforms where we can go in
And
to
share
actually
data, exactly.
and
Upload.
see that, yes, that is papers from oncologists, from doctors, everything. You know, we see what they did for COVID-19. Couldn't they do the same thing for cancer? Of
No, but
course, it's
thank God for organizations like Aortic and Co, who are now really trying to get research going. You know, that's really, I
exactly.
mean, thank God that we have leaders in Aortic and Co who are now saying, look, let's start talking about local research. You know, and so there are some really dynamic oncologists and researchers now who are saying, look, enough of all this nonsense. Let's start getting homegrown data for our own cures, because we cannot keep depending on external people using our data to publish papers, our own
Yes,
patients. So I
yes.
understand that in India, you can't even take the research information out.
Are you
You must
kidding?
use it.
You use it there.
Everybody
You
has
use it
access to
there.
our own now. Everybody has
Exactly.
access to our own. You know what I'm saying? We need to put in some change. But like I said, thank God for there's CAPTC and a few other research groups that are really doing an amazing job. You know what I'm saying? So thank God that we're now having oncologists who are like-minded, like we are, dynamic, who are saying, look, enough of this nonsense. We need to now push this thing forward. Let us be pushing, and in the private sector, get the government to. And so it's really being driven by the private sector. And then you've got some researchers in the teaching hospitals who are also pushing. So thank God, I mean, we're making, I must call, it's not all doom and gloom. We are making progress
No,
slowly.
no.
You know, thank God that we're seeing more and more people who are
Yes,
interested in
but we
getting
want
jobs. You know?
we want more people being to have vested interests in it. We can't just allow it to be the private institutions. You
Of course,
understand?
yeah. And
Everybody
we
has
need
to have their
more survivors.
CSRs, right? Everybody, all institutions have to have their CSRs. Well, you're not obliged to, but you know, conscience to have your CSRs. But government also should come, you know, together and say, okay, identify, you know, well, what might be CSR for one institution, health may not be, another one would look at something else. But those that have their CSRs, you know, in the health especially, should also, government should identify them, and they too have to let government know that this is what we're all about. We're ready to support, like you rightly said, researchers, oncologists,
Offer
everything.
tax rebates and stuff to encourage
Yes,
investment in the sector, yeah.
and then also ensure that these things are changing every day. I mean, I'm on panels, I go to several conferences and everything. It's now that we can't move, but we're being invited. There are things that are happening every second. Oncologists are going back to school. New things are happening. Trainings, asking these people to go, you know, what is it, update, you know, peer review publications. These are what is happening. You know, let's get on with it, and then, you know, put it to good use as regards Nigeria. You know, if, as you're saying, that Ghana next door is doing mind-boggling things, then where is Nigeria there? You know, we have to, we really have to move forward, and move forward fast, because we're in the 21st century. I mean, we can't allow people die unnecessarily. If you are doing what you're doing and I'm doing what we're doing and other people come together, I know that we would have turned the situation round for the greater good. But by God's grace, Nigeria is our country. We can't. But
Exactly. We have no other
why we
country, so we
talk
need
is
to
that
change.
we want the best, right? We look at other countries, what they're doing, you know, and we feel, not just me, a lot of other people that I have spoken to, have said, listen, we are the big guns, but we also have to be seen to be leading the pack. Believe that?
Many of our cancer patients who are referred to us this week, we get our referrals from teaching hospitals. The oncologists are using personal money to start the chemotherapy.
So we're lucky to be here. We're lucky to be alive. Like you said, you went back to see if you were in Nigeria when you were diagnosed, what would have happened? I would have been a gunner. My uncle, and I always use this as an experience, was diagnosed with, as an example, was diagnosed with prostate cancer. He literally sold everything. This is somebody that has paid his dues in Nigeria, a big guy. He has sold, in fact, everything. The only thing left is the house he's living in. So yeah, this is where we're at, and I'm very happy that we have been able to discuss this. Hopefully, I know that a lot of people are going to see this interview and know where we're coming from, that we speak for so many other people. It's just because that we have the platforms, but we speak for so many people that have really gone through hell like this, as regards cancer, and not even cancer, other chronic illnesses.
Exactly.
I always say chronic illnesses, but it's everything together. Thank you so much. So back to you as a very, very busy lady, as we see. How do you practice? What do you do to practice self-care? What do you do?
What I try and do is I try and eat healthy. I also try.
What is it? What do you mean by eating healthy? What is it that you eat?
I do lots of veg, fish, chicken. I don't eat very much red meat. I cheat once in a while on chocolate and stuff, but I don't eat very much of processed stuff. I've kind of tried to move away from eating so much processed food. Even though I'm cancer free, there's no point. I think the cancer allowed me to really, really think about things. I've never been big on junk food anyway. It's never been my way. But I think with cancer, I'm a bit more conscious of what I eat.
Absolutely.
And whether it's worth it or not. You sit down, you look at something and say, is it really worth it? Like, it's not worth it. You know what I'm saying? So it makes you, not that I'm paranoid, but I'm a lot more conscious about what I put into my body. And I think as we get older, we also have to be a bit more conscious.
True.
I also recently got a little puppy. He's now 8 months old, and he keeps me on my toes, taking him for walks. My sons are grown up now. They're in their 20s, so it means that I have a lot more free time to myself. And yeah, so I think, and I do a lot of writing. I do poetry, and that's one thing that I started doing when I got the cancer. I used to do a lot of writing and poetry and stuff. And when I got the cancer, it made me realize that, look, you've got talent, start using them. So
exactly.
That's what makes you think about yourself.
It brings out your creative side. That happened to me.
It does.
Cancer brings out your creative side. Yes.
You don't waste time with time wasters anymore. You don't sit down there with people who have no. It just totally turns your priorities around. So
it turns you around.
I spend a lot of time writing. I find that very relaxing. If I'm very sad, I write it. And when I write my poetry and I'm inspired, I don't have many. I write it out as if it's being dictated. When it flows, when I'm in the zone, I can either be really happy or really miserable. That's when I write my poems.
Exactly.
Really miserable or really happy. But that's when I do my best work. So yeah. And my faith is very important to me. I could not have gone this far without a belief that there was a God out there who has given me the grace to be able to get through it, who has given my life purpose, because I think that is the most fulfilling thing. I get up in the morning and I know I'm making a difference. I get up, I get phone call, I know I have saved lives, and that makes a huge difference. Even those that we have not saved, we have given them quality of life and dignity in death. And that is, I know in Africa, that's not a concept we're familiar with. Quality of life. Just keep doing it until the money runs out. And dignity in death, again, is something else. So these are things that are alien concepts that, thank God, that because of my experience, our experiences, because my co-founder's father died of prostate cancer. So we've both lost a parent to cancer. I have had cancer myself. I have seen a good death. I have participated in helping people have a dignified exit, and it changes the grieving process. You know what I'm saying? then you miss the person, but the grief is not the same as when it's traumatic and the person's in pain.
So in hindsight, tell me, what is it that you wish you would have known if at the beginning of your journey that you do know now? What is it?
To be honest, I can't think of anything. I can't think of anything because throughout my mother's cancer, I always researched everything. And I'd had a breast lump before, so I'd already done the cancer reading then. And then when I was diagnosed, I read everything readable. Mm-hmm. And then through the phone. So I honestly can't say that I can't think of anything that I would have done differently or I don't think so. I think the most important thing that I did when I was diagnosed, I stayed away from negativity. Mm-hmm. I didn't allow people to cry around me.
Toxic.
Go and cry, and come back. Because I found that I was struggling and I had to keep my family positive by being positive. So I couldn't deal with anybody that would break my composure.
That actually happened to me too. If you were in a position of power now, what one thing would you do to change the healthcare? So what would you do as regards the healthcare system in Nigeria?
I think the thing you have to address first is the issue of personnel capacity. Because you can have all the equipment you want in the world. If you do not have motivated personnel, you're as good as dead. Mm-hmm. A hospital is only as good as the personnel that's there. It's not the machines that are going to take care of you. It's not the medications. If the medications are not prescribed correctly, I would invest heavily in personnel. Mm-hmm. Training, motivation, giving them a correct remuneration, making them comfortable like everywhere else in the world. Let's celebrate these doctors, for God's sake. Let them feel that. I mean, look at National Health and Co. They had everybody clapping for them during the COVID thing. I mean, yes. Why do we have to follow? When we see, we'll now follow. Why can't we come up with incentives, send them on trainings, tell doctors that if you do medicine, we'll give you a scholarship. If those who are doing medicine will reduce school fees, or we'll give you loans or whatever. Make it some initiative now.
Yes.
These are as soon as our doctors are graduating from medical school, they're already filling up, doing the exams to travel abroad.
Yes.
Because when they get there, they're giving them houses, they're giving them work visas, they're giving them remuneration, they can afford to go on holiday, they're not worked until they're half dead. Mm-hmm. They don't have to use their personal money to pay for a doctor for treatment because there's an insurance, national. In fact, they get health for themselves and their family on national health, for God's sake.
Exactly.
We need to sort out our medical personnel because there's no point setting up cancer centers and bringing all sorts of fancy equipment if you don't have the qualified, motivated people. Because if you're qualified and not motivated, quality of care can be in jeopardy. We must give incentive and treat our doctors with the respect and dignity that they honestly deserve. 7 years in school is not easy.
It's not easy.
For qualifying and all that. We need to celebrate our doctors. If we don't have capacity, our technicians, our scientists, our researchers, everybody in the
healthcare, like I say, everybody in the healthcare ecosystem has to be.
Exactly, has to be.
Well, it doesn't matter whether they're doctors. Even the anesthesiologist, the biochemist, the person in pathology. Not everybody wants to be, but everybody is in that field.
Exactly. Everybody in the medical field. Nurses are hardly celebrated.
They're hardly celebrated.
Almost like, so it's very, very, very important that we really get our capacity issues sorted, because without capacity,
yes, nothing like it. Nothing like it. And what word of advice or positivity would you give that one person that is watching right now? What would you say to them? For example, they're beginning their own journey now, or they're a caregiver like you were to your mother. What advice would you give them, please?
I would say that you just have to stay positive and don't look too far. The mistake a lot of people make is that they look too far. They've already lived 1,000 lives ahead. One day. If you're going for your chemotherapy, go for your chemotherapy. Don't worry about the surgery or anything else. One item at a time, one step at a time. If you want to eat an elephant, you take it one piece at a time. You have to do it step by step, because if you do it as a mass, you will just get too overwhelmed. And then remember that ultimately, do your best. Mm-hmm. We are all going to die at some point in time. We don't know when, so don't worry. Don't focus on if you die, because we're all going to go. Focus on living. Focus on living your best life. Focus on where you, if you die, where do you go? Focus on on if you die, will people be celebrating, thank God that wicked woman is gone? Or will they be celebrating and saying, oh, what a wonderful person, they really impacted my life? Leave your legacy. I mean, my mother did that. I mean, I am who I am because of my mother. Because my mother did that step by step, did what she could. Learn your limits. You know, people always ask me, how do you manage to work in cancer care in Nigeria where mortality rate is so high? You know, mortality is 80%. So most of who you see ultimately will pass. And what I tell them is, look, I've learned my own limitations. I've learned to know what is my job and what is God's job. And because of that, I don't carry guilt for what's not my responsibility. I encourage, I support, but I do what I can do that I know I can do as a human. And the rest I've learned to drop it at God's feet and let him take care of it. It is too much to carry. Because if you're a caregiver or you're helping somebody and you carry their grief along with yours, you carry their emotions along with yours, you cannot be productive. You will break down and you cannot support them. You need to distance yourself somewhat. And, you know, maybe because I'm quite pragmatic.
That is very difficult, especially if you have been a family caregiver, especially.
Yes. But I think I've been fortunate in that because I had a mother who was very pragmatic, and my mother, I saw how my mother did it and I had it myself. So what I try and encourage when I'm dealing with cancer patients, I tell them, let's break down your journey. What has the doctor told you? And we go through, because people are afraid of what they don't understand. And the truth will set you free. So some people don't want to know because they're afraid. And what I tell people is that you're only afraid because you don't know. And when you understand, it gives you the opportunity to take control of certain things and not abdicate your happiness, not abdicate your health, not abdicate anything. So I always tell people, look, let's look at the whole picture. Let's look at all the things that they're telling you. And let's break down what are your top concerns. And let's address it concern by concern. Because out of the 500 things, there isn't 500 things that's bothering you. Maybe their top concern, what if I die? Then we focus on what if I die first. You know what I'm saying? Because if not, it is too much. It is too much. So I always tell people is that when you're in your quiet moments, write down all the things that you're worried about with this cancer. Write them out and then put them in your top 3. What are the 3 most important things? And then we can start discussing them topic by topic by topic. And like I said, eating our elephant is a piece at a time. You cannot swallow the whole thing. You'll choke. They call your tally number. You're off, eh?
No, the tally number. I can't. I remember the advert. Oh my God. Your tally number.
Yes, when they call your tally number, you're going, oh. So me and all of us were in the waiting room. Let's face it, we're all waiting to board our flight. Yeah? We're all in the waiting room. We're just not sure which flight we're catching.
God, you just killed me with that tally number thing. Nigerian, jingles. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Abby. So before we go, are there any resources that you would like to recommend to anybody listening that has also helped you?
Yes. Resources, the Macmillan Cancer Support site is fantastic.
Yes.
The American Cancer Society is also very good. You can check, you can also check our website. That's www.thebriconfoundation.org.ng.
That will be on I will write all that one down.
And then Instagram and everything else. But one of the most useful ones for me, I think, was the Macmillan Passport. And then, of course, we've got you, my dear, Convos with Grace. We can follow up and hear from you what to do as well. Definitely, you have your blog and your Instagram. Thank you so much.
Yes. What I tell them is that do your homework first. Read about it. I know one can get so overwhelmed by all the information, all the bad news, all the good news. You should be able to, sieve the wheat from the chaff kind of thing.
Exactly.
But also at the same time, when you're going to see your oncologist or your doctor, let them know too that you have some information at your fingertips. You understand? That is very, very important, And
ask questions. If the man
gives
you
questions. What is it
write down the
Why?
Write it down. So you can go and research it.
Exactly. Hosting this group of new cancer patients. And I was telling them, I said, listen, you have a smartphone now, right? Everybody has a smartphone. You're being overwhelmed and everything. Once you meet your doctor or your oncologist, hit record. Just hit record. and record everything he has told you. When you go back home in your quiet moments, you will now be able to go back to what he said and take notes, because not everybody is going to go with you to the oncologist. Nobody may have time. So your phone is your best friend during times like that. You have to be a participant of your own.
Don't abdicate your health to your
at all. Is your
also, what I tell
body.
people is, if he's putting you on medication, ask him to write it, print it for you, go and research it. Because the issue is that, I mean, every time we have our seminars on co, I throw out random things like, okay, who can tell us the name of the chemos that they're on? I can tell you that 80% of the women cannot name all the chemos.
Sure.
So it means that if you're on treatment and you have a heart attack or you have an accident, nobody will know if you don't know that the drugs you're on, in terms of side effects, drug interactions. It is dangerous.
Very
dangerous.
Women
as well are hypertensive because of chemotherapy drugs. I had a lady who tells me, oh, that she's hypertensive, but she refuses to take hypertension medicine on top of her chemo. I said, my sister, hypertension, you can end up with a stroke. Go and sort yourself. I have a particular lady who was not managed by a multidisciplinary team. So this sister, she is cancer-free, but they were not monitoring her blood sugar or her diabetes. She ended up in a diabetic coma and had a stroke.
Oh my goodness.
So this woman who was cancer-free, now she was ventilated
had
for
something
3 weeks.
else. Yes.
3 weeks she was on a ventilator. In fact, they had told the family to take off the ventilator and forget about it. She survived the ventilation for 3 weeks. She's now recovering from a stroke because she was in a coma and had a stroke because they were not monitoring her blood pressure or her diabetes. Can you imagine?
That's very important. Yes. You're talking about multidisciplinary. This is it. Look at even your guy that does your tires on the main road. You know what they're inhaling?
They're heading towards oral cancer.
So there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of work to be done, and we have to start from somewhere. We have to continue to shout like we are shouting. My heart goes out to those artisans, especially, who are, the ladies on the street frying the vulcanizers, the petrol attendants. They all have to be tutored as to what the outcomes of their actions are. I noticed that even for our men, because I concentrate also on the guys. The guys refuse to. I have a lot of friends who have had issues, cancer, related issues. And they say, Grace, honestly, we can't. So my guests are usually Americans, British, because, they're very vocal about it. They don't care. They don't want their sons to go through what they went through and all that. But our African brothers are reluctant. I've spoken to a lot of them. They're like, Grace, we love what you do, the information you're putting out there, diverse patient voices, but
then also, I think for men generally aren't good at discussing their issues. It's almost like if they think it's a sign of weakness. It's not even a stigma for them. I think it's a sign of accepting that they had a problem that somebody else had to solve. Us. With men, the reason they present late is very often they will discuss amongst themselves. Somebody will recommend a pharmacy, self-diagnosis. Men are particularly bad when either they will not do anything about it, they'll ignore it until it gets so bad that they have to do something about it. And when they have to do something about it, they rather talk to a friend than go to a doctor or go to a pharmacy.
Yes.
So men generally, and that's why you find that when men present with prostate cancer, it's very late. And think about it, prostate cancer takes forever to grow. So by the time somebody's coming with advanced prostate, the man has had it for 5, maybe 10 years before it gets to the point. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Exactly.
So I think the issue men just don't discuss. They don't like to appear vulnerable or anything like that.
Yes.
So most men won't discuss because they don't want to appear weak.
Which is bad.
Because of it now.
Which is bad. I mean, I feel so terrible when somebody reaches out to me and say, hey, Grace, I love your show. I'd like to, give out information there. But I have to reach out to our brothers and they're like, Grace, no, we can't come out. I'm like, you have sons. You will have sons-in-laws. These are things that you have to be able to talk about, for heaven's sake. But you don't push them. Yeah, because you want them to be comfortable, but at the same time, it hurts that they don't want to be able to share their story. You know, what breaks it's their decision, but it's what breaks my heart. You know, because.
But don't you think that? But don't you think that for some people, a lot of people, when they're done with the cancer battle, they don't want to go back there. They don't want to go back into the thing and talking about it. They just want to cut. It's close the door and move forward.
But do you
and
know that
you
can't cut the door on cancer?
You're stuck with it because there's always that possibility of reoccurrence.
You cannot.
And better that you, yeah. But a lot of people just they want to hide their head in the sand and say, okay, look, I'm done with that. And if I don't look at it, it means it's no longer an issue.
If
so
we're done with that, why do we keep going back for follow-up visits? Why do they say keep following up? Go for blood work, go for this, go for that. Like I was telling someone, I said, do you know what 1 year of cancer survivorship means, of having breast cancer means? The hours spent, all the interventions you have to go through. Do you know what it means? It can never leave you. So if you think that, oh, you're done with it and everything, my dear, that person is deceiving themselves, because you can never be done with cancer. It is part of you for the rest of your life, because it has affected you so much that it's like a dent, only that thankfully it has had there are more pros than cons. Bless God for that. There are more pros than cons.
Out of choice. Yeah, it's a case of glass half full, glass half empty, isn't it?
Exactly.
I mean, for people like myself, I put on my breasts, or I don't sometimes, but for women who still have breasts, they wake up in the morning, the breasts are attached to them.
Yes.
For those of us who had mastectomy, you have to remember where you put it. So every day you wake up,
you have exactly. But that is it.
And I couldn't find my breast. I went for an interview on the TV one day, and I remember I spent like 15 minutes trying to find where I put my breasts. So I was almost late. So when I walked up on the interview, I was telling the commentator, my God, sorry, I'm sorry. I mean, normally I'm at least half an hour early. I was still early, but normally I'm really early. I said, look, I couldn't remember where I put my breasts. So she laughed.
You buy and put them all over the place.
Now I have 3 pairs. 3 pairs of breasts. I have my small breasts, my medium breasts, and my lolas that I bring out for special occasions. So,
my dear, I hope you've had a pleasant time. Had a lovely discussion, and we will take this further on another occasion.
Definitely, right. We have a lot of things to talk about still, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Wonderful talking to you.
And
Thank you so much for
Abigail. Yeah. Let me just sign out first, and before you go. So, my dear audience and friends, there you have it. You've been listening to the amazing Abigail Simon-Hart, who has been wonderful coming to, discuss her own experiences and the way forward as regards cancer in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share our episodes, because knowledge is power, okay? Thank you so much, and wishing you love and light. Goodbye, and thank you.